Hello students, today we can see the topic factors affecting enzyme activity. The activity of an enzyme can be affected by various factors that alter the tertiary structure of the protein. Okay, so if any factor is responsible for changing the tertiary structure of the protein, then the enzyme activity will be affected. So what are those factors? These include temperature, pH, change in substrate concentration, or binding of specific chemicals that regulate its activity. One of the factors that affect the enzyme activity is temperature. Enzymes generally function in a narrow range of temperature, and each enzyme shows its highest activity at a particular temperature, and that temperature at which the enzyme shows its highest activity is called the optimum temperature. The optimum temperature for an enzyme is usually the body temperature of the organism. It can range from 37 degree to 45 degrees Celsius. When you see the graph, you can see when the temperature increases, the enzyme activity also increases up to a certain limit. Beyond that, when the temperature increases further, what happens? The tertiary structure of the protein gets denatured. It will be destroyed. You know that all enzymes are proteins. So the tertiary structure of the protein gets denatured or destroyed at a very high temperature. As a result, the enzyme activity will not occur. Okay. Then at low temperature, the enzyme can be preserved temporarily in an inactive state. As a result also, the enzyme activity will not take place. Okay. pH also affect the enzyme activity just like that of temperature. So enzymes function in a narrow range of pH, and the enzyme activity will be maximum at an optimum pH. For some of the enzymes, their optimum pH will be acidic in nature, and for some others it can be alkaline range. For example, if you take pepsin, it acts in an acidic medium because it is secreted by the gastric glands inside the stomach, where the hydrochloric acid is also secreted. So an acidic medium will be there, and pepsin can function well at an acidic medium. What happens if it is alkaline medium? Then it may lead to the denaturation, or it affect the structure of the tertiary structure of the protein. As a result, it may not be able to function. Next factor is concentration of substrate. With increase in substrate concentration, the velocity of the enzymatic reaction rises at first. The reaction ultimately reaches a maximum velocity, and it does not increase any further by increasing the concentration of the substrate. Why? Because it occurs because enzyme molecules are fewer than the molecules of the substrate. Okay, so the substrate molecules, the number of substrate molecules will be more than that of the enzyme molecules. Any further increase in the concentration of substrate will saturate all enzyme molecules, and no enzyme molecule will be left free to bind the additional molecules of the substrate. So there won't be any more enzyme molecule to bind with the substrate. Hence the velocity of the enzyme reaction cannot be increased beyond a limit by adding more substrate. Okay, so when substrate is added, in the beginning it will be going on increasing, and to a certain extent the enzymatic reaction will be increasing, and beyond that it cannot increase because there won't be any more free enzyme molecule to attach with the substrate. Okay, now if you see in this graph, you can see Km is there, isn't it? So what is this Km? So Km is Michaelis constant. So what is Michaelis constant? It may be defined as that concentration of a substrate at which the reaction reaches half its maximum velocity. So what is Michaelis constant? It is defined as the concentration of a substrate at which the reaction reaches half its maximum velocity. Km is expressed in moles of a substrate per liter. In fact, it is the measure of the affinity of the enzyme for its substrate. The lower the value of Km, the greater is the affinity of the enzyme for the substrate. The enzyme activity can also be affected due to the presence of specific chemicals that bind to the enzyme. When a chemical binds to the enzyme, it prevents the enzyme activity. This process is called inhibition, and the chemical that prevents the enzyme activity is called the inhibitor. In this, if you see, the first reaction is an enzymatic reaction. It can be compared to the lock and key. That is, a particular key is used to open a particular lock. No other key can open that lock, isn't it? Same way, a particular substrate can fit into the enzyme that helps in the enzyme reaction. As a result, at last a product can be formed, isn't it? But if you see the second picture, you can see a chemical is attaching to the enzyme, and that blocks the active site for the substrate to attach. So the substrate is not able to attach, and no enzyme activity can take place because it is blocked by the chemical which is attaching to the enzyme. Okay, so this is said to be inhibition. Next is competitive inhibitor. The activity of an enzyme may be reduced or inhibited in the presence of a substance that closely resembles the substrate in its molecular structure. Such a substance is called a competitive inhibitor, and the process is called a competitive inhibition. In this case, the competitive inhibitor molecules will compete with the substrate molecules for the substrate binding site, that is the active site of the enzyme. As a result, what happens? The competitive inhibitor combines with the enzyme to form enzyme inhibitor complex rather than enzyme substrate complex. Therefore, what happens? The enzyme cannot take place in catalyzing the change of the substrate, and thus the enzyme action is inhibited. For example, malonate is a competitive inhibitor which competes with succinate, that is the substrate, for enzyme succinate dehydrogenase. That is, this succinate is a substrate that binds with the enzyme succinate dehydrogenase for the enzyme action to take place. But here, malonate is a substance which is acting as a competitive inhibitor, which is having the same molecular structure similar to that of succinate, which competes with succinate to bind with the active site of the enzyme succinate dehydrogenase. Okay, as a result, what happens? The enzyme activity cannot take place because of the binding of a malonate with the succinate dehydrogenase. Okay, in this picture also you can see the competitive inhibitor is having the structure similar to that of the substrate. When it binds with the substrate, when the inhibitor binds with the enzyme, the substrate cannot attach to it and the enzyme activity cannot take place. This can be compared with a lock jammed by a key similar to its original key. Okay. Now, this competitive inhibition is often used in the control of bacterial pathogens. For example, sulfur drugs are competitive inhibitors of folic acid synthesis in bacteria. Why? Because these sulfur drugs will compete with the p-aminobenzoic acid, and it prevents the next step in the folic acid synthesis. So what happens? Folic acid synthesis is blocked, and that result in deficiency of folic acid. As a result, the bacteria finally dies. Okay, so it can be, the competitive inhibition can be used for controlling the bacterial pathogens. Next is the classification and nomenclature of enzymes. A systematic method of naming individual enzymes is very essential, as thousands of enzymes have been discovered, isolated and studied. In the modern system of naming a particular enzyme, the suffix ase, ase, is added to the root word referring to the substrate of the enzyme. By substrate is meant the substance that is acted upon by the enzyme. For example, sucrase is an enzyme which act upon the substrate called sucrose. Another system of naming enzyme is that the suffix lytic is added to the substrate, such as proteolytic enzyme, that is protein splitting enzyme. The enzymes may also be named according to the type of reactions they cause. If it causes oxidation reaction, it can be named as oxidase, or dehydrogenation reaction means dehydrogenase enzyme. Like that it can be named. And most of these enzymes have been classified into different groups based on the type of reactions they catalyze. Enzymes are divided into 6 classes, each class with 4 to 13 subclasses and named accordingly by a 4-digit number. This group of enzymes, the first we can see oxidoreductase. These catalyze oxidation and reduction reaction either by removing or adding electrons or hydrogen ions from or to the substrate. Okay, so these catalyze oxidation and reduction reaction. Oxidation, removal of electron, or reduction, addition of electron. So these are also called dehydrogenases. For example, cytochrome oxidase enzyme oxidizes cytochrome. Okay, here you can see S reduced to substrate. One is S and S dash. S reduced and S dash oxidized gives S oxidized and S dash reduced. Okay. Now next is transferases. So these catalyze the shifting of a specific group from one kind of molecule to another, or from one position of the molecule to another position in the same molecule. Okay. So what is transferases? These catalyze the shifting of a specific group from one kind of molecule to another, or from one position of the molecule to another position in the same molecule. For example, glutamate pyruvate transaminase enzyme shifts an amino group from glutamate to pyruvate. Okay, that is Sg plus S dash gives S plus S dash G. Okay. Next is hydrolases. These catalyze the hydrolysis of complex big molecules into simple small molecules by addition of water molecule and breaking of specific hydrogen bonds. Hydrolases means with the addition of water molecules, breaking of specific hydrogen bonds occurs. Okay. So what is hydrolases? They catalyze the hydrolysis of complex big molecules into simple small molecules by the addition of water molecules and breaking of specific hydrogen bonds. Okay, so these enzymes catalyze hydrolysis of ester, either peptide, glycosidic or C-C bonds or C halide and PN bonds. Okay. Next is lyases. So what are lyases? Enzymes that catalyze the removal of groups from substrates by mechanisms other than hydrolysis, leaving double bonds. Okay, enzymes that catalyze removal of groups from substrate by mechanism other than hydrolysis, leaving double bond. So this is lyases. Next is isomerases. Isomerases, they catalyze reactions in which an organic molecule is transformed into its isomeric form by rearrangement of molecular structure. Okay. What is it? These catalyze reactions in which an organic molecule is transferred into its isomeric form by rearrangement of molecular structure. It includes all enzymes catalyzing interconversion of optical, geometric or positional isomers. For example, phosphohexoisomerase enzyme catalyzes the conversion of glucose 6-phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate. Okay, now next is ligases. Enzymes catalyzing the linking together of two compounds. Okay, ligases, they help in water linking together of two compounds. Example, enzymes which catalyze joining of CO, CS, CN or PO bonds. Okay, so that's all about the different groups of enzymes. Next we can see about cofactors. Enzymes are composed of one or several polypeptide chains. And as you all know, all enzymes are proteins, isn't it? But there are a number of cases in which non-protein constituents called the cofactors are bound to the enzyme to make the enzyme catalytically active. So what are cofactors? They are non-protein constituents which are bound to the enzyme. Okay, so the non-protein part of the enzyme is called cofactor and the protein part of the enzyme is called the apoenzyme. Okay, three kinds of cofactors are identified. They are prosthetic group, coenzymes and metal ions. What are prosthetic groups? These are organic compounds that are tightly bound to the apoenzyme. Okay, so it will be seen closely attached with the apoenzyme, that is prosthetic group. For example, if you take the enzyme peroxidase and catalase, these enzymes catalyze the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. So in this peroxidase and catalase, heme is the prosthetic group and it is the part of the active site of the enzyme. Okay. Next is coenzyme. These are also organic compounds, but their association with the apoenzyme is only transient. That is, only at the time of catalytic activity, that is enzyme activity, this coenzyme will be attaching with the apoenzyme. Okay. Coenzymes serve as cofactors in a number of different enzyme catalyzed reactions. Okay. And the essential chemical components of many coenzymes are vitamins. For example, the coenzyme nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate contain the vitamin niacin in it. Okay. Now next is the metal ions. A number of enzymes require metal ions for their activity. So how metal ions will be attaching? They form coordination bonds with the side chain of the active site, and at the same time they also form one or more coordination bonds with the substrate. Okay, so the metal ions form coordinate bonds with the side chain of the active site and also forms one or more coordination bonds with the substrate. Okay. For example, zinc is a cofactor for the proteolytic enzyme carboxypeptidase. Okay. So these are the three cofactors, that is the non-protein constituent of the enzyme. Now this catalytic activity is lost when the cofactor is removed from the enzyme. So if these enzymes, don't think that all enzymes are having a non-protein constituent. Certain enzymes are having it, and such enzymes, if the catalytic activity has to take place, then the cofactor should be attached to it. When we remove the cofactor from that enzyme, then the catalytic activity will be lost. Okay, so these cofactors play a crucial role in the catalytic activity of the enzyme. Okay.